Hello, and welcome to part 8, the final video of our n8n Masterclass series. Now, I'm really excited for this episode because we're finally going to dive into how you can actually make money with all these AI agents and automations, right? How do you sell these things? Who do you sell them to? Where do you find clients? How do you price? How do you implement? All these questions we are going to go over today in what's going to be essentially a 20 to 30-minute AI agency crash course for you. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Chase, I just struggled through 7 videos of how to build basic AI automations and agents. How could I possibly know enough to actually start selling these things now? Well, first, you know more than you think. Second, what you need now, if you actually want to start making money with this, is you need to start working on sourcing clients, and you need to spend less time on actually building random AI agents and automations, right? You need to step away from YouTube tutorial hell. You don't need to spend the next 100 hours learning how to build random AI agents. You just need to focus on the ones that actually drive value and people actually want to buy. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what those AI agents and automations are, right? There's really only a handful that you need to master and learn how to build. And in many cases, people make entire careers off of just building one of them, right? So you need to go deeper on the ones that matter and not get distracted on the edges, like watching random YouTube videos on random automations that no one cares about, wants to buy, right? So I'm going to tell you what you need to focus on in this video. I'm going to tell you how you can find clients. And as I show you these automations and agents, I think you'll start to see that, well, we've actually touched on a lot of these things. And even the ones we haven't explicitly talked to, you've already dove into the different building blocks that, once assembled, look just like these AI agents and automations. So you're farther along than you think. And if you want to actually make money in this space, I think this lesson is for you. So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what agents to sell, how you get clients, how to price these AI agents and automations. And then lastly, how do you actually implement it, right? If you find someone who wants to buy from you, how do you actually give this to them? Because it's not as intuitive as you think. So let's get started and jump right away into what you need to sell. So here are the 4 types of AI solutions you need to master if you want to be able to make money, right? So the 4 are RAG agents, lead generation automations, voice agents, and content creation automations. Now, I'm going to show you examples of all 4 of these. I'm going to link you to videos of all 4 of these. And I have templates for all of these in my Skool. So obviously just go down below and click the link to get them. So RAG agents. First of all, you remember RAG. We've already dived into it a little bit with Pinecone. Now, what will that look like in terms of actual client level RAG? Well, it's going to look something like this. Now, this obviously looks a little more complex than what we were working with before, right? We have Supabase instead of Pinecone, but long story short, this is essentially the same thing, right? We have our AI agent that's able to talk to our RAG vector database. All you see here in the red, that's just a more robust data ingestion system, right? Remember we had Google Drive that went into Pinecone? Well, this is the same thing, except it's Google Drive that goes into Supabase. And the only other thing that's happening along the way is we're just giving it some metadata. Like we're tagging the data. We're saying like, hey, you were part of this document and I put you in here at this date and this is your version, right? Just to make it a little bit easier for looking things up. And we look at both PDF and text files. And lastly, we get rid of any like duplicates, right? So it looks scary at first, but really not too much extra going on. And then below here, all we have is just a system that makes sure that, hey, if I delete a file inside of my Google Drive, is it being deleted over there in the vector database? Well, this makes sure that is what is happening. So just a little bit of like data cleanup. That's the only difference. And again, looks scary at first, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot of colored boxes, but really you've already done 80% of this. And this is the most popular AI agent. Why? Well, the reason it's the most popular is because you're taking essentially ChatGPT and you're shoving it into somebody's business, right? It's now ChatGPT that's been trained on their files. It's part of their team. It knows what's going on in their project. And now it can actually do things on their behalf. So the way you sell it and the way you pitch it is a RAG agent is ChatGPT plugged into your business, and it can now act as a member of your team, right? It's trained on your stuff. It knows what's going on inside of your company, and it can do things, right? And that's a pretty powerful tool when you think of it like that. So RAG agents, they always sell well. They're very flexible, and you can kind of put them wherever you want to, right? We did it inside of a chat window, but you could throw it inside of Slack. You could do something where it's on a web app, sort of web page like we did with Lovable. Very, very flexible. You can do a million things with it. Next, lead generation automations. Now, why is lead generation automations such a good seller? Well, because it's easy to show the ROI, right? If I have an automation that says, I'm going to bring in more clients for you and clients equals money, well, then it's kind of obvious that this is probably worth the price of admission, right? I'm getting you more clients, which leads you more money. Therefore, give me some money, right? Like that's kind of the pitch. That's almost what all the pitches really break down to. If you go really reductionist, is that these things will give them money. Therefore, they should give you a little bit less money than what they will bring in. And lead generation agents do that very, very well. Now, we haven't talked specifically to lead generation, but let's kind of like run through this at a high level. All we're doing is we're grabbing data from somewhere, right? We're getting some sort of lead generation, some sort of lead data, whether that's from scraping LinkedIn or getting it from a website like Apollo. But really, this front part, this is just essentially like an HTTP request, right? Or an API, right here. You're using an API, you're doing an HTTP request, asking for data from some outside source. That's all that is happening, and we've done that. From there, we then take that data that we got from the HTTP request, right? We're doing some filtering, we're throwing it inside of Google Sheets, but what we're really doing is we're just doing some more research with it, right? We're giving it to AI. That's what happens down here. So you get some you get some information about a particular lead, right? An actual human being. Now it does research about that person's company, right? That's what's happening with Tavily. We used Tavily before, so you've done research, modules before. That's all that's happening. From there, we then combine all that information, right? The company information and the individual lead, and we generate a custom outreach message. Again, you're just giving it to AI with a special system prompt. You've done all this before. From there, we then take all the data, we put it inside of a Google Sheet, and then we upload it to Instantly AI. Again, just an HTTP request with an API. And Instantly AI is where all the actual cold outreach happens. So when we look at it at first, it looks scary. It looks like something completely different than what we've touched on before. But in reality, it's just HTTP request, HTTP request, and then we're just doing some sort of data analysis with AI. And you've done all of this. So between RAG and lead generation, that's probably like 60% of what I do, 70%, right? So that's just two. You could literally make a living just off of getting really, really good at RAG, 100%. So number 3 are voice agents. Now, voice agents can, again, take a ton of forms. You could have voice agents that are also RAG agents, right? That's the cool thing about RAG is it can essentially be a foundational piece of all these things. But voice agents, we're talking like 11 labs. We're talking like AI that is either a sales rep, so it's doing outbound calls, or it's like a receptionist. It's taking inbound calls and taking appointments and stuff. I just recently put out a video on the outbound piece if you want to dive into that. But we're able to do a lot on the n8n backend as well, right? And allow these agents that are making calls on the phone to then use n8n to do tool calls and do a bunch of different stuff, kind of what you see here. And you're able to upload it into the CRM. Now, this again doesn't look like something we've touched on 1 through 7 on those videos. But when you break it down, all that's happening is it's webhooks. And we've touched on webhooks when it came with Lovable, right? And just API calls. Right? That's all that's really happening when you break it down. Now, is it going to be a little complicated at first as you deal with new, webhooks and new API calls? Yes, of course, of course. But the building blocks that create these sort of agents and automations that provide value, again, you know them. You aren't 100 more YouTube tutorials away from learning them. You kind of just have to commit to the process that you've already started and deep dive on these important agents that people actually buy. So, voice agents, right? Voice agents, easy to pitch them because the value is rather obvious. I'm giving you an AI voice, I'm giving you an AI sales rep or an AI receptionist or something in between that works at all hours of the day. It's tied into your CRM and you pay it a small percentage of what you would pay a normal human. That's the pitch. Lastly, content automations, right? Every company wants to do some sort of social media content creation, right? Whether that's LinkedIn or short form videos or carousels, right? This is part of their essentially marketing budget, but people don't want to put in the work for it because it is a lot of work to have a person doing all of your content. And for a lot of people, they're cool with just some sort of automated stuff that hits like LinkedIn or blog post or whatever, right? And that's where you come in. And you can very easily create content machines like this, right? This is something that's essentially just taking a niche that's given to it by the user. It does some research about it via Tavily. It adds an image that it creates with ChatGPT, and then it posts it, right? That's all that's happening, right? You're just doing a little research. You're doing some sort of system prompt that's like, hey, this is what the company wants to sound like. You can add an AI created image if you want. Oftentimes they don't even want one. And then you just post it. It's honestly extremely basic and easy. And everyone knows they need to be out there doing some sort of content play, right? But a lot of businesses just don't have the time or the bandwidth to do it. And again, that's where you come in. And so that's what you have to learn, and that's what you sell, right? It's these four. It's some combination of these four. I know people who make a ton of money just doing voice agents, for example. So you don't even have to really have all four in your back pocket. But the more you have, the better, the more flexible you are. And I will say these four encompass 90% of what I do. So dive into these, kind of have some blinders on, master these foundational things. And as you saw, none of these are wildly complicated. They're really not, right? Just stick with the basics because the basics provide value and they solve problems. Now let's talk about arguably the most important thing, and that's sourcing clients, right? How do I actually find people who will pay me for these stuff, right? Because could have the greatest automation, the greatest AI agent in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're not going to get paid. So this is really, really important, right? What are the different sales funnels? What are the different pathways I have to get people? Now, there's really four of them, right? Your warm network, that's like people you know, friends, family, coworkers who actually care about you, hopefully. Two is freelancing websites. Three is cold outreach. And four is social media. All of these require kind of slightly different plays, and they all pay off at different times, and they're all going to have different reach, and they all require a little bit of different amount of work. So at the beginning, you're not going to know which one you're good at either. And you're not going to know like where gold lies for you, because there's a lot of people who eventually just kind of stick to one of these, right? There's people who make their whole living off freelancing websites. I'm talking like Freelancer, Upwork. There's other people who are just like cold email machines. This is where they get all of their leads. Other people exclusively do social media, right? Like, but you don't know which one you're going to be good at, and you don't know which one's going to make sense and bring in the most amount of money. So at the beginning, what you have to do is you have to cast a very wide net, do a lot of volume, and hit all four of these funnels. And then over time, see what works, what doesn't, what you like, right? What makes you not completely want to just like quit and then double down on that. So let's kind of talk about them one at a time. Warm network. That's your friends and family. This is your coworkers. This is where you reach out to them, and it is not a pushy play. You're just telling them, hey, my name is Chase. You know who I am, right? Like I just started an AI agency, really excited. I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm not asking to do anything for you, but I was wondering if you knew anybody who might need my work. Would love to be put in touch with them. Like that's it. Like super low threat, very, very non-pushy, non-sales. Like you're just telling people, hey, I just started an AI agency. Do you know anyone who might need some help? Now, they're going to be able to read between the lines and be like, oh, if I need help, I'll ask him. But you're not even pushing that on them at all, right? But this is scary for a lot of people because this is very outside their comfort zone. But you need to let people make the decision for themselves. Let your friends, let your family say no. Don't say no for them, right? So put yourself out there. And this is going to be the easiest way to get clients. It's going to be the easiest and fastest way to get clients off the bat because people will go out on limb for you if they don't totally hate you. So you have to do this. This is the first play you do right away. Now, second way, freelancing websites. I'm talking about things like Freelancer and Upwork, right? This is where you actually make a profile, and this is where you actually bid on jobs. Now, these sometimes get a bad rap because a lot of these websites also take a cut and you're competing against people, and it doesn't always feel great. Get over it. Honestly, you kind of have to just get over it, right? You don't have any clients and you are not in a place where you can turn your nose up at different funnels that can actually bring you money. And these are a great place for it. Now, why are these places awesome for it? Well, because the leads are right there, right? These are websites that have people who are willing to pay and they know what they want. And that's like 90% of your problem right now is you finding people who need your work and are willing to pay. Well, they're right here. They're just waiting for you, right? You just have to go and get them, and you have to apply at scale. I'm talking your first month of doing this, you should probably be putting out 50 to 100 applications. So that's multiple applications a day, and your applications can't suck. And so when it comes to these websites, big thing, you need to flesh out your profile. You need to have a profile picture, and you probably need to be doing like very personalized applications for each and every job. My suggestion, do video applications. People, again, will hate that. But guess what? You need to learn how to be able to articulate who you are, why they should care, and what your solution is going to be on camera. Because guess what you're going to do when you get on a call? You're going to need to articulate who you are, why people should care, and why they should use your product on camera. And this is a great way to do that, right? This is a great way to get reps because you're going to suck really, really bad at first until you don't. Lastly, cold outreach. This is email, right? And again, guess what we have here? We have lead generation automations that we are already selling people that we can also use ourselves. right? So you need to figure out what your cold outreach program is going to be. My suggestion, use Instantly, right? It's a really good program. It's just instantly.ai. Everyone who's in my school gets 20% off because they hooked it up. But Instantly is awesome. Basically, you're going to just use something like this that grabs people's names, emails, etc. You're going to give them a custom message, and then you're going to blast out 1,000 to 2,000 emails every single month. Now, there are entire courses built on how to properly do cold email. I'm not going to go super deep into it now. I do in the school, but just know that's what you need to be doing, right? You need to be doing cold email outreach at scale because you just need to put your name out there because nobody knows you exist. And until they know you exist, you're not going to get paid. Now, lastly, social media. I'm not saying you need to get on camera and show your face right away and start pretending you're any of your favorite creators, but you do need to lean into it because out of all these, social media has the greatest ROI, but it's the longest burn. So compared to Warm Network right away has the smallest reach, but it's going to give you the most instantaneous results. Social media is the exact opposite. It's going to be months until you probably get any inbound leads because of it. But once you do get that network, once you do get that brand, it's going to pay off immensely. Now, obviously, I'm biased in this respect, but you cannot sleep on social media. And you don't have to go in right away super, super hard, right? Like make it very low threat at first. Just post on like different websites and niches that you kind of want to reach out to, right? Even if that's on places like Reddit or Facebook, like slowly start engaging with these communities and then eventually take it a step up and start posting on LinkedIn. And then once you kind of get your feet under there, start doing more short form, right? You don't have to put your face out there, but you do need to figure out your social media strategy because in the long run, this is going to pay off more than any of the others, or at least have the potential to. So that's how you find clients. Warm network, freelancing, cold outreach, social media, each have different payoffs. I don't care if you don't want to do one of them, do it at the beginning. You need a wide net and you need to figure out what you're good at because you don't know yet. All right, let's say you defeat the odds and you somehow actually get someone to talk to you, right? And they're willing to buy, believe it or not. You found a client, they want to buy. How the heck do you price them? So what you're going to hear in a lot of places is what's kind of known as value pricing. So it's like, hey, I'm talking with a client, I have an automation for them, and they said this automation is going to save them $10,000. Well, that's great. So how about we just do some sort of like percentage? I'll take 30%, you pay me 3K, you walk away with 7, we're both happy. And a lot of people will preach that. This is how you do your pricing. It varies based on consumer, it's value based, right? But everyone's happy with it. Sounds great, doesn't work. I have yet to get a client that could actually articulate a monetary value for the problem they're facing with any amount of accuracy, let alone do it for things that are rather nebulous. And also, are they telling you the truth? It's a real question. So, value based pricing is just this la la land nonsense that I have never seen. And maybe I just have bad clients, and maybe people have these awesome clients that can actually articulate it and put a dollar amount on it that's accurate. I haven't. Also, enjoy that conversation when you talk about the value pricing deal of it and they tell you it's not saving them that much at all, and then all of a sudden you've been backed into a corner right off the bat where you can't even like really have a conversation about a price that makes sense for you. I just don't think value pricing works. I've never seen it in practice. Try it out. Maybe it will work for you. I don't think so. So then we just get into this even worse area, and the answer is it depends. Pricing is very much it depends. There is no playbook on this stuff in the AI agency space, right? There's no Kelly Blue Book for AI agents and AI automations. So what you price is what you can get away with. And that means price as high as you possibly can. Let the market decide when enough is enough, right? Never charge the same thing for the same automation twice. You should always charge more the second time and just keep doing that until you hit a wall. And once you hit a wall, that is the market telling you, hey, you're charging way too much and no one wants to buy it. So that also is a great in theory. What does that actually mean in practical terms, Chase? Like, can you actually put a dollar amount on that? Well, I think it's going to depend on your situation. If you are dying and you need money now, right? You have no clients and you're struggling. What I would suggest you charge for each of these automations, right, would be somewhere in the 25, anywhere between like the 2 to 5K range. 2 to 5K. Like you're struggling, you need clients. The other bucket is like, I'm doing okay. I have little money coming in. I don't like need this or I can't eat. I would do 35 to 7K. That's your range. And then if you're doing well, you can push away clients 5 to 10K a pop for each of these, right? And that range is rather large because it's also going to depend on, hey, not all RAG agents are the same. They're going to want different integrations. Basically, how much of a pain in the butt is it going to be for you, right? How much time do you think it's going to take you to actually complete this? How much of a pain in the butt is the client going to be, right? Off these first couple conversations, price that in, right? So that range is kind of like your quality of life. And so that's how you should kind of bucket pricing, right? And why the ranges are what they are. Now, in terms of the pricing structure, 50% upfront, 50% upon completion. That's pretty standard. In terms of retainers, I offer a retainer, I would say, of 10% of the total cost per month. And the pitch is I'm here for troubleshooting and I'm here for minor changes. Now, you're going to give them a product no matter what that works when you leave and you get that final 50% payment. But if they want you around for troubleshooting and all these little things, like they got to pay extra per month. So that's how that works. So that's how you price it. It's nebulous. It depends. It doesn't feel good. It is what it is. Price as much as you can. Get as much money as you can. So that brings us to our fourth and final step, which is how do you implement this, right? All right, so you somehow managed to get a client. They actually agreed to your price. They signed on the dotted line. Now, how do you actually give them this product? How do you actually build it? Well, what you need to do is you need to go on an onboarding call right away, right after they sign it, get them on a call. And what you're going to do is you're going to walk them through building everything, right? So you're going to have them go on to n8n. They're going to create an account, whether that's through self-hosting or otherwise, and they're going to put their name on it. They're going to put all their billing under their name, and then they're going to give you the login credentials because you do need the login credentials because you are going to build these things on their instances. What you cannot do is create your own n8n instance like this own RAG thing I have and then sell access to that to somebody else. That is a violation of n8n's fair use policy. So you can't do that unless you're paying for the enterprise program, which you probably aren't. So you need to build it on their instance. So, hey, what about security? They shouldn't be giving me their password, is what it is. That's how you have to do it. And then from there, you're just going to go through and you're going to do the same thing for everything. So if this was a RAG agent, we would then go on to Supabase, right? We go to supabase.com. He would sign up. He would put his billing on there. He would give me their credentials, right? Same thing with OpenAI. Now, there's certain things you could do, like Google. Perhaps they aren't comfortable giving you their Google credentials, and they probably shouldn't be. Well, what you'll do is you'll just go onto the n8n instance you created with them, add some modules like the Google ones, and you're just going to go through the credential process with them and have them connected right then and there, right? This is a pain in the butt. It's going to take 20 to 30 minutes, but it's going to save you a huge headache at the end because the ideal is that once I'm finished with this, I am one message away from being like, hey, it's done. Here you go. Right? You don't want to deal with all this stuff on the back end. You want to get it done upfront right away because it's also a good thing for the client, right? It gives them some security because you can't just take your ball and go home at any point in time, right? They own everything. It's in their name. So this is good for both of you and just get it done right off the bat. So onboarding call, all the billing goes in their name, all APIs, everything is their name. Push it to them, right? Nothing should be in your name. And then the credential handover, like I talked about, it just makes it super easy once everything is complete. And so that's how you actually implement these solutions for the client. And that's how the whole process goes from beginning to end. And so that was your 20-minute or so AI agency crash course. What did we just cover? Told you what to sell, right? RAG, content creation. We're doing voice agents and we're doing lead gen. How to source clients, warm network, cold outreach, freelancing websites and social media. How to price as much as you can. How to implement everything in their name, easy handover. That's pretty much 80% of it. Now, we could deep dive this way, way more, and as you should, because there's a whole lot that we didn't cover. There's a whole lot in between the lines, and there's a whole lot of like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. How? Right? How do I write that cold email? How do I do my proposal? How? What are the practical steps? Well, here's my quick pitch for Chase AI, the Chase AI Plus community. I dive into all this, right? I have a 90-day essentially set of lessons that go day by day, which take you from step 0 all the way to landing your first client. And landing the first client is actually the guarantee on the Chase AI Plus community, right? If you don't get your client within 90 days, full refund. So that's the pitch. And pretty much we cover everything I just covered in here, but in great, great detail. So check it out if this is something you actually want to do. Um, if not, hey, hopefully this was enough to get you started, right? And this concludes the masterclass. And again, you might still feel very overwhelmed, and that's totally normal. But I promise you, you actually know way more than you think now, way more than you think, right? You really are on the verge of being able to turn around and sell this stuff to people, because the actual money making part of this has a lot less to do with AI and a whole of a hell lot more to do with the actual business fundamentals and sales fundamentals that we just covered. But in terms of the AI stuff, you actually are farther along than you think. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Good luck. Check out the community if you want to dive more into the AI agency bit of this, and I'll see you around.